tumbler came out perfect in less than 4 minutes in a tumbler press. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to press a full wrap 20-ounce white glossy skinny tumbler, and we are going to do a full wrap on it. So the first thing we did is we printed our design. It is 9.3 wide by 8.5 tall. So we already printed that design and we cut off all of the excess white around it. So we just made sure to cut that all off so that there's nothing hanging over. And when you press it, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wrap it around. You should have a little bit of overhang at the top. If there's too much, like that might even be a little bit much. So if there's too much, you can always chop it off with your paper cutter. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Take a little bit from the top and a little bit from the bottom so that your design stays centered. So now we should be basically perfect. Yeah, so now it's perfectly, so there's not really any overhang at the top or the bottom. And you can see this is pretty freaking tight. There's not much overlap at all. And that is your goal. The least amount of overlap, the better. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna make sure you get it nice and tight, and you're gonna put one piece of tape at the bottom. You're gonna get it nice and tight at the top here. And you're gonna put one piece of tape at the top. When you do this, make sure you put it down into the tumbler so that it keeps it nice and tight on that tumbler. So now what you're gonna do is take one long piece of tape and you're coming right down the seam with it. Now, I can already see that there is some air in that seam. So you're gonna take, I have what's a dull hook. This is a dull dental hook that I got off Amazon. And you'll see that there is a sharp side and there is a duller side. I always use the duller side. The reason being so that it doesn't cut through the tape. When we're about to scrape down the seam, you wanna use that duller side so it doesn't slice that tape open. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna take your hook and you're coming straight down the seam to get rid of any air out of that pocket. And that's it. You don't have to do anything else crazy. We're gonna take it over to the press right now, but you can see there's no air in that seam, and that's what's gonna give you a perfect seam. So if you come over to the press, this press is not at the right pressure. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the knobs simultaneously to bring us to the right pressure. Okay, so now you will see we're gonna set the temperature at 356 degrees for anywhere from 40 to 60 seconds. It will depend on your press. You can test this with different tumblers, but I'm gonna keep it at 60 seconds. And I'm gonna keep it at 60 seconds because there's a lot of dark spots in this tumbler, and the darker the ink, the longer it takes for the sublimation to start. So we're gonna keep it at 60 seconds. And that's all your pressure that you need. You just needed a little bit, about medium to tight pressure. It doesn't need to be crazy. Okay, so we're just at about 60 seconds here. We're gonna open up the tumbler press and we're just gonna take the tumbler, we're gonna rotate it. One thing I forgot to mention is whenever I press tumblers, I always press it with the tape side up first. So this is the seam, so that I always know that this is the first press. So that when I turn it down, now I know that that's our second press. So now we're gonna press that for another 60 seconds. So again, just to keep a normalized system, if you're ever pressing multiple tumblers at one time, if you do them all the same way every single time, you will always know what step in your process that you're at. That's a quick tip that I learned along the way when I was doing bulk pressing. All right, so we're at 60 seconds again. Now, here's what everybody, whenever you have this ghosting at the top or the bottom, it's because you didn't get enough pressure. So I can tell you, if you pull up on your bottom, down here, you can usually tell right off the bat if you got good pressure. So it looks pretty good, but what I'm gonna do with you, just in case, I'm gonna repress that down. I'm just gonna press the bottoms for another 10 seconds. So we're just gonna stick the bottom in just for 10 seconds, just to give it a little something with these darker colors. So if it's a light color, you most likely won't need to do this, but these darker colors have a little bit of trouble sometimes getting a good amount of pressure on the edges of these heating elements. So if you're ever seeing that, our heating elements are pretty good, but if you're ever seeing that on your tumbler press, make sure to just give those darker colors an extra push at the top and the bottom. Just like I said, just an extra 10 seconds each side. You're gonna put it in, you're gonna press it for 10 seconds. And if it's super dark, if it's an all black tumbler, I would honestly probably press it for another 40 seconds on each side. So it will up your production time by about 2 minutes, but it'll be worth it because you'll be able to get that full black or full dark brown effect with no issues. So we're pressing that, and then I'm gonna open it up and I'm just gonna turn it so that we're pressing the other side too. So don't forget, you gotta press the whole thing. So this is giving you an extra 40 seconds on these darker colors, but worth it in my opinion to not have to deal with any kind of, people like to call it ghosting, but any kind of pressure issues at the top or the bottom. It's not technically ghosting, but I know a lot of people call it that, so I'll just stick with the common term, but it's actually a pressure issue that you're having, or a heat issue with your heating element. Another good thing to do, I'm gonna let this cool down, but another good thing to do to check, see if it's up here, to check your heat, yes, is if you don't have a heat gun, order yourself one from Amazon, and it's a thermal, so when you put it in, you can tell exactly how hot it's running. So if I move it all the way up and down, I can see that the temperature fluctuates as you get towards the end. So that's why you have trouble on those ends sometimes. So you can get yourself a heat gun and just double check and see how good your ends do. Like I said, we're usually good up until the edge is there. We do have some new presses coming in with new and improved heating elements, which have better heat throughout the whole element. So this is our old version anyway. So if you ordered the new one, we have better elements for those. All right, so let's take a look at this tumbler and see how we did. This is the most exciting part. Beautiful. So you can see that we got a good wrap. Look at that seam. There's no blowout on that seam, and it came out absolutely gorgeous.